There you see now how all your so-called power counts for absolutely nothing. How your entire empire of destruction comes crashing down, all because of one little cherry. One little lovely ballet. So full of fun. Little one little.
Hi, it's Mo. It is already May 12th, so we're into this week and this weekly update quite a bit. Last week, when I ended the vlog, I think it was a little early because the next day I was taking my mom to an appointment, and I know that I just don't film those days that much. I know that I'm exhausted when I come home, and that is exactly what happened. I was actually exhausted all weekend last weekend, and it was kind of rainy and gloomy, and we did do a lot. We did go to the beach, and we did do a lot outside and got things accomplished, but I also took a 3-hour nap on Saturday, which was wonderful. I miss taking naps. I try not to take them as much as I used to, but I love them so much. So the first book that I finished this week, which I think I actually finished at the end of last week, is A Poem for Mrs. Pollifax by Dorothy Gilman. This is the 4th in the Mrs. Pollifax series, which is one of my favorite series. It very quickly became one of my favorite series because it follows Mrs. Pollifax, who is a septuagenarian. No, I think she's a sextuagenarian. I think she's in her 60s, and her children are grown, and her husband passed away, and she's living in New Jersey, and she's depressed. She talks to her doctor in the first book, and he says, like, do something you've always wanted to do. So she marches herself down to Washington, D.C. and joins the CIA. In this book, she's had quite a few missions for the CIA already. She's super excited when her handler, Mr. Carstairs, calls her again to do another mission, and this one is even going to be kind of more important. Not more important. This is going to be different than her other missions, which have mostly been like courier missions. She's supposed to play Carstairs' old grandma and be on like rest at a fancy spa hotel medical treatment center. So she goes and she does this, but being Mrs. Pollifax, she of course observes things more than even what Carstairs had sent her to observe. She's looking for plutonium or any signs of that, or any signs of terrorists bringing plutonium through this medical spa. She's always picking up on little things, and she's always picking up on the way people are treating each other and what's going on around her. And of course, this leads her to find out not only what Carstairs was hoping she would, but many other things as well. These are the best. She's so great. These definitely fall to me right in between Agatha Christie, specifically Miss Marple, and The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. Like, they're silly, goofy fun in the same way that both those books are, but they're also like topical. And how do you explain that? Like, the way that the Thursday Murder Club, these older people are so open and understanding and willing and wanting to understand youth culture and to understand the culture that's going on, to use their experience, draw from their lives, but also be open to everything that's going on now. You know, you think of old people being very like crotchety, being very set in their ways, and just Mrs. Pollifax is just not like that, and the Thursday Murder Club people aren't like that. Miss Marple isn't like that in a lot of ways, but she also is a little bit more stiff upper lip British in that she sees very specific right and wrong. And Mrs. Pollifax has some of that as well, but she's much more like fluid and accepting and willing to understand that people do things for various reasons, and just because you do something that's looked down upon doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad person. She's not stiff upper lip in that she thinks that people should act a certain way. She knows that people act the way that they act for reasons, but she does have a very strong moral compass and moral code, and when she sees people who are acting immorally, she calls that out. Anyway, these are great. great books. This is like such a fun series. I was so happy to be back with them. All of them are on Hoopla, at least for me, and they're all read by the same reader, and they're fantastic. The next book that I finished in May was A High Wind in Jamaica by Richard Hughes. Whew, this one took me on such a journey. I'm trying to read an NYRB book every month this year, so this was my NYRB book. I just got this one in March or April in a lot that I bought from eBay. I had been wanting to read this, but I didn't know why I wanted to read this. I had just heard somebody talking about it or seen something on it or read a description that I thought was interesting, so I picked it up. So I really had no idea what I was getting myself into with this book. It follows quite a few children, 5 or 6 children who live in Jamaica. They're all siblings. They all live together with their family in Jamaica. They're all quite wild. I think the oldest one is like 12 or 13, and then the youngest one is like down to being very, very young, maybe like 5 or 6. In the beginning of this book, there is a high wind in Jamaica, there is a hurricane, and we see how these kids react to this hurricane. We see like how they're spending their days and the expectations that are put on them or not put on them from their family, and how being raised away from home in England, being raised in Jamaica, they're kind of acting wild and like little wild creatures because the constraints of their normal society aren't there, and because they don't fit in with Jamaican society, they're kind of left to their own devices very much by their parents and by everyone. So after this hurricane, their parents decide that they should be shipped back to England, that they need more structure, that they need more society around them of what they would have had if they had grown up in England, and they get on a boat to go to England by themselves. I think there's a nanny with them at first, but the ship is very quickly taken over by pirates, and the pirates are pretty cool. They're like fine people, I guess, but the captain of their original ship thinks that he hears them being murdered, thinks that he hears them being thrown overboard. Being the coward that he is, writes to their parents and tells them that they're all dead, murdered. So that children are totally on their own. No one's looking for them. No one's coming for them. And the majority of this book does take place on the pirate ship. So there's a little bit in the beginning in Jamaica. You kind of see some of the dynamics of some of the kids. And then there's quite a bit on the pirate ship. And then there's a little bit later. They do eventually make it to England. And this one was so weird. First of all, it seems like a children's book. In some ways, it feels like a children's book from the early 1900s, which this was written in or published originally in 1929. So it does feel like Peter Pan, which I read earlier. It does have some, like a little absurdist, you know, it's kind of got that wild children's book feeling to it, kind of early British, very English children's book feel to it. But then it gets so weird. Some of the kids die and then they never talk about it again. There's sexual connotations to a lot of things that happen. You're never quite 100% sure, especially with the oldest girl, if she's being sexually exploited by the pirates. There's a whole secret that one of the children is keeping that happens to them on the pirate ship. Kind of the overarching idea is that children are wild creatures, and that these children specifically are wild creatures, and it's hard to understand what they're doing, how they work, and keep tabs on them, keep them under control, keep them in line, and should you even, and are they even like human, kind of? It's really, really weird. And there's a lot of adult themes and adult things in this, and the kind of sociopathic nature of a lot of these children draws into question how they were raised and what was going on in their childhood. Very bizarre. I was very surprised, I guess, is the only way to put it. I just didn't know what to expect, and this was not what I expected at all. I would read more by Richard Hughes. This is not a children's book, but I would like to read an adult book, a book featuring adults, because this featured children. At first I thought this was a children's book, but it cannot be a children's book. It's too bizarre. It's too mature. I'm so confused about it still. Glad to have read it, but I don't know if I liked it. The next book that I finished this week is A Year of Last Things, which is a collection of poetry by Michael Ondaajte. This is the second book by Michael Ondaajte that I've read. I also read the English much patient. I love that movie and I wanted to read the book. And I liked the book. I like the movie better, I guess. I tagged quite a bit of poems in this book, and this has a lot of small poetry, but it also has a lot of very long poetry and almost essays where he toes the line between prose poetry and essays. It's hard to know whether they are true or not. You know what's something about this book, High Wind in Jamaica? A lot of animal violence in this book. A little bit of animal violence in this book. I liked this one. I thought it was interesting. I look forward to reading more of Michael Ondaajte's work. This made me want to read his memoir, which is called Running in the Family, which I do have on my TBR, my physical TBR, so I would maybe hope to get to that one at some point. It took me a while to get into this one. At first I didn't love it, and then once I got into it, I did really enjoy it. So those are the books that I've read so far this week. It is Tuesday. Yesterday I worked a lot. Today I was supposed to go into my office job, but I probably end up doing that Thursday. Tomorrow I have to work a lot. It's been really beautiful, and I did make some planters for a coffee shop that I used to work at. I need to make the rest of them and then deliver the rest of them to the coffee shop. I did some of that this weekend. I like to do it when no one's there, just because I'm super antisocial. That was really the reason that I didn't want to go into my office job today. I just didn't want to be around people, which is a problem, I guess. Something I should work on, probably. You know what's something I want to talk about, actually? So it's the 12th, and so far I've read 8 or 9 books in May for Mini May, which is very exciting. I'm really enjoying Mini May. I'm really enjoying the idea of what minis I should read and what kind of minis. Are they smaller books? Are they shorter books? Are they little? I'm really enjoying reading whatever I want with Mini May, and I have a lot of things on the go. I also have been doing shorts every day in Mini May, so that is also fun and exciting. I've been batch filming them, which is fun. I never really thought I would do shorts because I don't watch shorts that much. I have been watching them a little bit more lately. Obviously I look at Instagram and I doom scroll on Instagram and I spend too much time on Instagram. So I do watch reels on Instagram, which are essentially shorts. And the reels that I like the most are food content reels and eating videos. So I watch a lot of that, and all the reels that I check every day are food content people because that's my favorite thing to watch. So it's been interesting to try my hand at them. Like I said, I never thought I would, but for Mini May, doesn't it just make sense to do mini videos for Mini May? I think it does. And I really like editing them. It's so satisfying and it's so fun to edit them because they're so short. They're super easy to batch film. They're super easy to batch edit the way that I'm doing them. Obviously, if it was more involved, and I even tried doing a yes, no, maybe for my April wrap up, which I thought was fun. It was much harder to edit, but I thought it was really fun. And there's something satisfying about how quickly you can edit them and how quickly you can put them up and how much you can schedule them and see them go up on your channel. But for me, when I have creators that I love and I get that notification that they have a new video every day, I hate it. So I do struggle with that for Mini May. In Mini May, if you have the bell notification turned on, or even if you just check and it, has a little tick mark that I have a new video, and then it's a short, it's so disappointing, That's how I feel, so I assume that's how other people feel. So I think after Mini May, I will continue to make shorts here and there, but I definitely do not think that I will do them. I mean, I won't do them every day, 100%. I don't even think I'll do them very much, maybe once a week, on days that I don't post long videos, so something happens, or maybe once a month, I'm not sure. But they are super satisfying to film. I would like to branch out and try different kinds of shorts because the editing part is so fun. I really need to figure out how to post my shorts on Instagram stories, which I don't know how to do. So let me know if you're participating in a Mini May. Let me know what you think about YouTube Shorts. Do you watch YouTube Shorts? Do you like them? If you do watch them, what kind of shorts do you like? And when I read some more this week, I will let you know. It is Saturday, May 16th, so I should have ended this vlog yesterday, but I just haven't had a chance to film because I've had a lot of work to do and I've been doing a lot and being social. I wanted to film this morning, but I had to go see my mom. I mean, I didn't have to. I wanted to go see my mom, but, you know, it's just that social drain, which I feel quite often, and this week I was quite social. I went to the new Bellworks. Bellworks is this really cool thing in New Jersey, and I think they have one like maybe in Chicago or something, but they take old office buildings. They started with Bell Labs here in New Jersey, which is this huge place. I've brought you there before. It's an enormous space, and part of it is devoted, part of it that was offices is again devoted to offices, but it's now divided so that many multiple companies can work from this one office. I think in Bell Labs, in the original Bellworks, they have like one whole floor that's one company, but then everything else is divided up. Marty, get out of here. Get out. Get. They also have like roof gardens, which I've never actually been up to. My friend was saying that she took a yoga class on the roof. They have restaurants, they have retail, they have a library, they have a urgent care and health center, they have a gym, I think, or like a Pilates studio maybe. They have a salon, they have an art gallery. So they have like all these interesting things. They have a piano that you can play. They have a basketball court. Oh, this is all inside, by the way. And that's how big Bell Labs that's how big Bellworks is. So this new Bellworks is in Eatontown or Shrewsbury, and it's on the site of an old company. It seems to be much smaller as far as the communal space that they're going to have, but they already have a cafe, they already have a big atrium, they already have a cafeteria, they already have a huge outdoor patio. All the spaces have free Wi-Fi, all the spaces are free to enter, free to utilize, and then you purchase whatever at the retail establishments or other services that you want to purchase. And then of course if you're using the offices, you rent the offices out, and that's how like they get the money. So it's really interesting concept. I personally think it's the wave of the future as far as like third spaces are concerned, as far as like malls are concerned. It's kind of doing what malls did but taking the focus away from retail, which is exciting. And this new Bellworks has a ton of outdoor trails and spaces. So I didn't get to explore those with my friend Allison, but I definitely want to go back with my husband and like look at them and walk on them and see what it's like to just utilize that space in a different way. A lot of people use it as an off-site office, as a way to get out, to get a cup of coffee, or to bring their coffee, to bring their lunch out. Like if you don't want to spend any money, you don't have to, but you can use Wi-Fi there, or you can use your hotspot and you can get work done in an environment that's like not your house. So you can use it like a co-working space. They have plugs, they have, you know, all sorts of stuff. And the new one had all these beautiful flower arrangements, and it was just really fun to see it and to meet my friend there and to hang out. I hung out with my mom today. I'll go into that more in depth in next week's vlog, which I'm also going to film today. But I want to talk about the 3 books that I finished in the week of whatever it was, May 7th to May 15th. I did finish 666 by J. Anson. This is the author of the Amityville Horrors, and this is a short horror that I was reading for Horror Mayhem and for Mini May. And this is the first J. Anson that I've read, and this was a very strange book. I did enjoy it, but it wasn't very horrific in my mind. It was written in 1981, or was published in 1981. It was about a house that has a murder happen, and then the house gets moved to upstate New York, from California, I believe, to upstate New York, the whole house. But it's really about this couple that live in upstate New York, and the house gets moved across from. So they live in this remote area. He's a contractor and a builder, and she's an interior designer, but she's more of a New York person, and he's definitely an upstate person, and it's kind of a fluke that they met at all, and now she's living upstate with him, and she doesn't really have a lot of work, and so this house gets moved across the street, like across the gully, basically, like kind of far away from their property, but where they can see it, and it kind of interrupts their view, and they're all very shocked because, you know, they're used to living in this remote area, and she's really trying to get used to living in this remote area, and he really loves it, but she loves him, so blah, blah, blah. She doesn't see it at first as an opportunity, but when her friend, who is an an antique dealer from New York, and a person that her husband is very jealous from decides to rent this property. The wife of our main couple gets really excited that she's going to interior design this space. And so it's about the dynamic between these three people, definitely, but it's really about how the satanic and witchy, scary, demonic elements of this house utilize these three people and how they see in them an opportunity for murder and mayhem. And that's the basic plot of this book. I should have known going into this, it being called 666, the sign of the beast, the sign of the devil, that this would have religious connotations, but for some reason that didn't occur to me at all when I first started reading it. So I was a little bit surprised that it's a religious horror. I don't know why. I would say more than a religious horror, more than a horror, it is like renovation porn, because the husband in the couple gets tapped to renovate this house and to fix up this house. And as he's renovating this house, which they talk a lot about, and they talk a lot about his other jobs, he realizes that this house was constructed very strangely. And this leads him to seek out some other people to talk to about why this house would be built like this. And then there's a whole part with like an ancient copper coin, and it's all very symbolic, I guess, and it's all very religious in some ways, but really it's all about like renovating this house and how this house got moved across the country. So it was really fun. I liked it. I didn't think it was very shocking. It was fairly obvious what was going to happen. I think it the denouement of this story, there is supposed to be like a twist, but I don't think it was very twisty, or at least it was a very obvious potential twist. Like you were like, could this happen? Yes. Could it happen another way? Yes. I don't know. It was interesting. I liked it. Like I said, it was very dry. There's like some letters in here, and there's a lot, especially because it was written in 1981, of waiting, you know, trying to call people and them not being around, trying to get a hold of people and not being able to, having to come home to use the telephone and things like that. So it wasn't like very exciting or very thrilling, and it wasn't very spooky, but I did enjoy it. Would I read the Amityville Horrors? I don't think so. I'm just not interested in that, but it is another like haunted house. 666 definitely falls into the haunted house category, which I do enjoy. The next book that I finished in May was Winesburg, Ohio by Sherwood Anderson. This book is a very slim book of kind of interconnected short stories, one might say, but one might also call this a modernist novel. Now, I just learned what this term means, and it's basically like Mrs. Dalloway or Ulysses. I think Milkman would fall into this category as well, where you are hearing and jumping from person to person in a controlled time and or space, similar to Mrs. Dalloway. So like in Mrs. Dalloway, we're following Mrs. Dalloway, and then she walks by someone and she thinks about them for a second, and then we're in the head of that person. And then that person leads us to another person and to another person. And I guess it's supposed to display the interconnectedness of all things and the similarities of all people and how we're all connected and we all are alike in many ways, even though we think we're these autonomous, separate individual people, but we're also all the same. So this one takes place in Ohio, and it kind of follows one family to a certain extent and their influence on Winesburg, Ohio, and all the people around them. So we do keep kind of jumping back to them, which is similar to Mrs. Dalloway, which I read for the first time last year, I believe. Or was it this year? No, it was last year, I think. And this one had a lot more to do with religion than I thought as well. It's interesting because it has a lot of religious connotations, and it talks a lot about the religion of the different people that it touches on, and it talks about how religious ideas and ideology dictate people's behavior a lot, which I thought was interesting, but also not something that I love to read about. I've been wanting to read this one for a while. I think I heard Brian from Bookish talk about it first, and that made me interested in it, and then I've tried several times to put it on a TBR or a pile of possibilities. I thought now for Mini May was the perfect time to actually get to it, especially because I just learned about modernist novels, and I don't think I'm going to be reading Ulysses anytime soon. So I thought this one was okay, a little bit not to my taste, I guess, but I thought the writing style was interesting. I thought the ethereal voice was interesting. I don't think I would run out and read any more Sherwood Anderson, but I'm glad to have read it, and I could see myself, especially once I learned more about this tradition in writing, coming back to this to reference it. The last book that I read this week was City of Ghosts by, is it Victoria? Yeah. Victoria Schwab, also known as V.E. Schwab, has written this series about Cassidy, who is a young girl, a preteen, so this is like a early YA or later middle grade book, whose family are ghost hunters and ghost researchers. So her mother is the believer and her father is the skeptic, and together they write books, but they have this opportunity to create a TV show and travel around the world going to the most haunted cities. In this first book, they're going to go to Edinburgh, but our main character, Cassie, isn't thrilled about this because she did have a near-death experience and now she can see ghosts. Her parents don't know this. She has talked to them about it a little bit, but because of the nature of their work and their personalities, they don't fully comprehend that she actually can see ghosts. They don't even believe that her best friend Jacob is also a ghost. So this follows Cassidy and Jacob and the family as they go to Edinburgh. We get to learn about Cassidy and we get to learn what the circumstances were that led her to her near-death experience and how she can use her powers at the start of this book, and throughout the book she learns more about herself and about her powers and how else she might be able to use them in the future. There's 3 books in this series, so she's going to move on to another city. The next book is set in Paris, and the whole reason that I wanted to read this series is the 3rd book is set in New Orleans, which I can't wait to get to. I started reading this one physically, and I got about 60 pages in, and then I had to go somewhere, so I decided to pick it up on audio. It's a very slow audio narration, as you might imagine a middle grade book to be, so I was able to listen to this at 2 times speed at least and get through it very quickly. This book is not necessarily a mini because it's like 285 pages, but it is a mini because it's like a middle grade book and it's like a little hardcover. It's so cute. I like this. I thought it was fun. I say add it to, what was that Rin Shapeko teen horror that I read a few years ago? And his best friend was also a ghost. Oh, The Girl in the Well. I really liked that book by Rin Shapeko, and I feel like this is a similar, this could be like a companion to that. That one was YA, and it was much more gory and scary. This one, for middle grade, has some scary moments, but it's not as gory, it's not as horrific, it's not as scary, it's not as bloody. Like, there is blood, there is scary moments, there are interesting topics, scary topics in this, but the most scary topic is that Cassidy loves Harry Potter and the Harry Potter series, and she talks about Harry Potter all the time, which is so annoying. This book was written in 2018, so I would have thought that V.E. Schwab would have known better than to include that at that time. Maybe it was right on the cusp and there was still some question whether J.K. Rowling was a bad person, but we know that she is a bad person, so I wish they wouldn't harp on it so much. I'm hoping that in subsequent books that won't be as much of a thing. So I'm definitely going to continue on with the series. I'm not going to get the other books in the series, and really I might not keep this one, but I think I might try to pass it on to one of the teens that I know, or one of the middle grade people that I know. I don't know if they're ready for it yet, but maybe they will be. Yeah, I like the mystery part of it. I like the way the ghosts were. I like the connections that our main character made during this installment of this series. I'm glad that I read it. So those were the 5 books, I think it was 5 books that I read this week. Was it 5? No, 6. Those were the 6 books that I read this week, and those are some of the things that I got up to. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned here. Let me know what you thought of them. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!